Hello, everybody. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Welcome and thank you for being here. Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome. I hope that you are all doing well and had an enjoyable Thanksgiving. I want to start off by just saying thank you to everybody who came through for the moment of gratitude that we had on the Zoom on Thanksgiving morning. It was really wonderful to be able to spend some time with you and just enjoy your company and share some space with you. I especially love being able to see your beautiful faces and to make that connection because now I know that when I'm talking to or I see so and so in the comments, then I know who you are. I can put a face to your name and it just, it's a beautiful experience for all of us. So for everybody who was able to come through on Thursday morning and have a moment of gratitude with me on the Zoom, thank you. I appreciate you for doing that. Hey, Yvelle, welcome. This is a dear friend of mine. She too has a channel here on YouTube. Yvelle Lisa with She's Up Next. She is so inspirational. I saw your live on Facebook, but I wasn't able to catch it. So I'm going to have to watch the replay. But thank you for being here tonight. I love you so much, girl. Welcome, everybody. Adrina, thank you for being here. Um, Hey, Cat BX, I hope that, we will have another Zoom. I'm not sure when. I can't make any promises at this time, but I do want to be able to host something on a, pretty regularly so that we can get together and interact off of this space, but, be able to have some one-on-one time. Well, not necessarily one-on-one time, but some group time so that we can just have a conversation, and enjoy each other's company because there's such a blessing in being able to talk to one another and share our experiences. Hello, Adrina. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much. So, everybody, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How are you keeping? Are you honoring yourself? Are you taking care of my brother? Are you taking care of my sister? Are you taking care of yourself? Because you are important to me. And I hope that you are taking care of yourself. And if you are not taking care of yourself, then why? Why? Why, brother? Why are you not taking care of yourself, sis? Why? Why? You're such a gift to all of us, and it's hard sometimes when you're coming from this type of situation, right? It's difficult sometimes to see the value that you carry. And so I'm making it my business to let you know that you are valuable, you are important, and I appreciate you being here. And, I wanted to have a conversation with you today so that we can just challenge the way that we're thinking or to challenge the way that we are all thinking, because it's not that I'm just speaking to you. I'm really also speaking to myself and challenging myself so that I know, hey, you've got to keep going forward, because it's one thing for us to be in this space where we dealt with the narcissist at whatever capacity, because I think it's important that you know that when people interact or encounter narcissists, it's not that the narcissist that you encounter is just an intimate partner. No, some people were raised by narcissists. Some people work with them every day. Hey, Antoinette, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I appreciate you being here. I finally got my Facebook and Facebook and Instagram, Facebook and YouTube comments to come together so I can interact with you all now. It's really important. And what really provoked me to have this conversation is I started going through some of my older videos because I was like, let me see what I was saying back in the beginning. And I was going through some of the comments and I saw that, wow, I've been rocking out with some people for almost a year now. And, that was really nice, to see that, okay, we've been going through this thing together. But then there were some comments, that I would read and I would see the hurt. I could hear the hurt through the words, right? And I kept on going. And I go to some more recent ones, and the same person or the same people would have the same type of comments. And it made me think for a moment that this is not good. And I almost felt like, and I guess this is something that I may need to work on, because I'm not the savior of nobody. My name is not Jesus Jr., and that's not my assignment. My assignment is to share, what's on my heart so that, we can, I can grow, you can grow. The word says, that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Overcome being a process. It didn't say we overcame and it's over, period. No, it says we overcome. So as much as I come on here and I share my story and I share what I'm going through, I'm still overcoming certain things. And that's what it is for all of us, So I kind of felt like, well, maybe I missed the mark, because after a year and we're still having the same conversation, we're still in the same type of pain. Why? Why is it so? We have to, I want to just challenge, as I am challenging myself, I'm challenging you too, that it's time for us to grow and, to move beyond the pain, because we're about to be in a new year. And, it's important that we don't miss the seasons of our lives, behind the pain of our experiences. You remember, the narcissists come into lives to steal, kill, and destroy. They're never a blessing. They're never a gift. And so it's important that we are able to rise above the pain and above the experience that we've had, so that we can walk into our heavenly places, so that we can reach that heavenly version of ourselves. I had to bring this up when I saw Congress. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So Kat BX also, she sent a letter to Congress about how narcissism negatively hurts and leads to situations unforeseen. And that's awesome, because I really do believe that, something has to change as far as laws are concerned when it comes to this type of abuse. All types of abuse is recognized. Um, um, Domestic violence, sexual assaults, financial abuse. Those are all recognized in many different scenarios and situations. But when it comes to emotional abuse, not so much. It's not even recognized, and it takes having a supportive therapist standing in court with you to say, like, hey, this is what's going on. And sometimes, the judge may be aware, and so they will get on board with you. But it doesn't always work that way. I was fortunate with my, when it came to, custody agreements and visitations with my children, that, their therapist was able to be heard, and their overall well-being went into, was considered. But that's also because my kids are also older, that they're able to verbalize. But, I feel and I see the comments and I hear the hurt and the pain about my children are being used, because the narcissist always uses children. They're always they're a pawn. They're a bargaining chip, and it's all to, further subject the other parents. Thank you, Kat BX, for your super chat. I appreciate you very much. I appreciate that. And so that brought me to wanting to talk to you today about the power of agreement. The power of agreement. It's important that, in fact, I believe I titled the whole video, The Power of Agreement, Rise Up, Super Empath. I was struggling between using the word rise or wake, rise up or wake up, because I really want us to, really take a look at ourselves. I don't even want to focus on the narcissist today. I want us to focus on us, so that we can move forward, so that we can heal, so that this time next year, I don't see you here. Yes, I love you, and I appreciate you being part of this community. I have enjoyed getting to know so many of you. I am so thankful for your support in my journey, because as I come here and I share with you, I'm still growing, I'm still healing, I'm still elevating, but I want to see you take flight. And as long as you keep being held back by, the memories of torment, the shame, the hurt, the embarrassment, the grief, and the pain, when do you get to take flight? And so I want to kind of shift today's focus off of the narcissist, so that we can focus on each other, so that we can focus on ourselves, because there's work that we need to do so that we can get to that heavenly version of ourselves. It's important, because just like we always say that the narcissist, and I have that whole video on, how they face their final karma, from, just the way I perceived it. Um, we too are going to have to answer. We are going to have to be accountable to how we used our time. So I don't think that on when you're facing judgment, or when I'm facing judgment, that yeah, but I was hurt and I couldn't, I just couldn't get past that pain. That's not going to be a reason or an excuse enough to say, okay, okay, daughter, you're cool. Okay, son, you're good. You don't have to worry about it. I understand you're hurt. No, we are going to be held accountable, because to whom much is given, much is required. You have been given information, you have been given knowledge, you have been given access. And I'm not saying that it's coming from me, but you have been, there are so many resources, there are so many channels, there are so many books, there are so many avenues that you're able to tap into. So you do have much. And again, to whom much is given, much is required. So there is a demand on everything that is within you, everything that was instilled in you before he laid the foundations of the earth. That means that there is something, there is a hidden treasure inside of you, and it's time. It's time to deal with this thing once and for all, and to be intentional. And I mean, like, fully intentional with what you do, with what you've been through, so that you can get to the next point, so that you can get to the next level, so that super empath, you can fully be awake and rise to the next dimension. It's real cute to be, every day, I'm a super empath, I'm a super empath, but still hold on to the things that are hurting you, and then not walking in the power that you have as a super empath. You have so much power, and you have power to be a change agent. Listen, the word tells us that you are the salt of the earth. Salt is a change agent. So wherever salt is sprinkled, it should change the flavor of what is there. So whatever territory you step on, there is a requirement that the environment must change, the atmosphere must change, simply because you stepped on the scene. You're the light. So wherever you go, light, darkness, I mean, the darkness has to go. It has to flee, because your presence is what changes the game. And so, how do you get to that point? How do you walk in the trueness of who you were created to be, if you are still holding on to the very things that hinder you, that don't allow you to move forward? Now, Adrena was in my DM a little earlier, and I'm sorry I'm doing this to you, Adrena, but I had a really proud moment when she was talking to me in the DM, because she said to me, or she shared with me, that she's coming up on her 6-month anniversary of being narc free. And I know for some people, they'll say, well, 6 months is not a big deal. It is a big deal, Adriana. I'm so proud of you for that, because in 6 months, you've done a lot of work. I remember when we first started talking, I could see how much pain you were in. And that's always a difficult thing, to see somebody hurt so much, especially when the pain is so raw. And many of us have been in that place where the pain is really, really raw, but you didn't stay in that pain. And I wanted to mention it because it kind of just fit into everything. Okay, so it's Adrena's 6-month anniversary on Friday. So um that is a beautiful thing. 6 months. But here's the thing, and why I wanted to mention you, Adrena, is because within the 6 months, you've gathered the information on what you were dealing with. You now have an understanding that there was a narcissist in your life, and a female narcissist, a friend. A lot of deception, a lot of pain, a lot of hurts and betrayal, right? But you didn't allow her to stop. Look at you. You have your own channel. You're sharing with people what it is. What does the female narcissist look like? How does she move? Why does she do the things that she is doing? You took your voice and you are using it. And I want to just challenge everybody. You don't have to be an Adrena. You don't have to be a YouTuber. You don't even have to be sharing anything on narcissism. But that thing, that passion, that treasure that you carry, let it out. Because look how Adrena is blessing us. She shares on her channel. She shared her journey. She shares whatever she wants to share. And, it edifies so many people. And I want you all to experience it. I want to be able to say, hey, you know what? So and so is doing this, and we can all enjoy and reap the benefits of your hard work, because it's harvest time for you. And so when it's harvest time, there's always something that's that is being spread and that is being gained. And so we are all going to enjoy that with you. So congratulations, Adriana. We are so proud of you, okay? And we are here to continue to support your journey as you go forward. But the power of agreement, in the word, it says that God commands a blessing where there's unity, or where there's unity, God commands a blessing. Now, that verse was sitting on me, and I was like, where there's unity, God commands a blessing. Where there's unity, God commands a blessing. And then I started thinking about my own walk and how I ended up at this point. And it took me a long time to get to this point, because I was running around in circles and not dealing with my mess. And another thing that really I was kind of like back and forth about, am I going to talk about this or not? But for those of you who did not get to watch Tanya's live earlier today, I highly encourage you to go ahead and listen to what Tanya shared. I think it was a very, very, very brutally honest video, and one that required a lot of vulnerability and the willingness to be transparent. And it's not comfortable to be so naked in front of people, because we can be naked and take off our clothes and show our bodies, but this is bearing your soul. These are the most inner things that we have, and sometimes there is shame in these things, only because that's the type of programming we've had. It's not easy to say that these were my experiences, and my value system is based on this, and I'm still hurting in certain areas because of this. But one thing about our experiences is, like, think of an onion. There are layers that need to be peeled. And so, I think I mentioned it a few videos ago, how, like, I went through different emotions, and then after years of nothing, and me thinking that I was healed from, the sexual assaults, but only to find out that no, there's another layer, and that layer was called anger. And I was forced to deal with that anger. But then also, like maybe 2-3 weeks ago, there was another layer, and that was a layer of self-acceptance, and, being able to just say, you still have more work to do. And honestly, guys, I think for a lot of these things, it's really just going to be part of walking through life and being able to really grow through it. But it's going to take you actually coming into agreement. You're going to have to come into agreement with yourself. You're going to have to be able to say, listen, self, this is me. I am who I am. These are my experiences, and we have to own the experiences. And it's kind of, I know it may seem like, no, I don't want to own that, but listen, hear me out. Those experiences actually give us insight to certain things. You don't have to, I'm not asking you to identify with the pain and with the shame and all of that, because those are the toxic residues. That's toxic residue from those experiences. But we have to be able to say that, what? I had that experience. It happened to me. And, it's that acceptance that, what, this happened. And, this happened, and, I can't change it, and I'm not going to run away from it. And I'm really just sharing from my own experience, because I was telling Tanya, 31 years of just running and hiding behind pain, not being able to verbalize the pain because it was too much. But in not being able to verbalize it, I wasn't owning it. I wasn't saying that this is what I'm dealing with. You cannot heal what you are not acknowledging. And so if we're going to say, if I'm going to be here, and saying the power of agreement, there is power in coming into agreement with these things that have happened to us, and saying, yes, it happened, but guess what? It does not define me. I'm going to learn, and I'm going to grow from this, because if we hand it to him, he will do a work in and through us. Now, before we go any further, I want to say, like, listen, I know that we have people of many different faiths here. I'm always going to, refer to my faith because that's what I use. That's what I go through. I can't relate to another faith. I can only relate to the one that sits heavy with me. And I want you not to walk away from this live, but I want you to, swap out my faith for your faith. So whatever your belief system is, hold on to that. I'm not here to convert you. I'm just here to help you, by sharing my experience. And hopefully that is going to help you. But what I was saying is that for me, I had to come into agreement with who God says that I am. And that meant that I actually had to get into his word to figure out what does his word actually say that I am. Because let me tell you, I went here and I went there. I'm the one who tried to, party the pain away, try to drink the pain away, try to live it up. I shop it away, all of those things, but it never took it away. And so I had to now be willing to get to the point where say, you know what, I've tried it, whatever, I'm done. What do you want me to do with this? And sometimes, we ask, sometimes we're asking the wrong question. Sometimes, we're asking questions like, well, why does this keep happening to me? Why does this keep happening to me? But, a lot of times, change the question. We don't get an answer when we're asking, why does this happen to me? Well, then let's change the question. What are you teaching me? It's one thing, somebody can say to you, I love you, right? And if you don't ask them to define what love is to them, you're going to view them loving you as what love means to you. So if you ask them, and don't be afraid to ask questions, y'all. Do not be afraid to ask questions because we want clarity. We want to know we want to know what they mean and where they stand. So ask the question, what does love mean to you? And they can tell you that I'll be there for you, I'll support you, I'll cover you. Now you have some clarity and you have some understanding. So and it's not going to line up necessarily with what you say, but you have an understanding of what that type of love looks like. Never, ever be afraid to ask the question because it gives you clarity on what you can expect. So change the question sometimes, and even if it's a questions that you're taking to prayer, change those questions. Like, instead of why does this keep happening to me, God, what are you trying to teach me? Okay, God, you've given me, I've got this pain and I've been asking you, take it away, take it away, take it away. Okay, help me get through this pain. In this pain, what am I missing? What are you trying to teach me? Because there's lessons in everything. And so it's important that you come into agreement with who he says that you are. A lot of the times, we find that, again, I started this off saying by saying that where there's unity, God commands a blessing. Sometimes it's that unity, that agreement, when we come into agreement with his plan, with his will, with his purposes, with what he is saying versus what we want to say, versus what we are screaming, versus what we would rather he said, but come into agreement with that. And then we start to see life change. How many of us here, when we ended these relationships with these toxic people, did you find that suddenly life looked different? All of a sudden, things started adding up, doors started opening because we came into agreement. God never wanted you to be with that person. There is no way he would want you to be with that person because that is not of him. So you see that things change, things change. And so many people many people start to see like, oh, my life, I started, just started getting promotions. I was able to buy my home. I was able to do, various things because you were no longer out of alignment. You're no longer out of his will, out of agreement with him. But now you're coming into agreement with who he says that you are. But part of coming into that agreement, part of, being able to experience the power of agreement is actually getting to the place where you actually accept yourself, self-acceptance. So now when it comes to self-acceptance, we can get it twisted and look at self-acceptance and self-esteem or self-worth as the same thing. Self-acceptance doesn't need any qualifications. It just means that no matter what, Joy, I'm going to love you because we're doing this thing called life together. So you're either going to get on board with me, or we're going to just have a mental and an internal fight until the Lord calls you home. Is that really what you want? To be having to have an inner war or an inner conflict within yourself. So it has nothing to do with your self-esteem, and it has nothing to do with how you value you. It has nothing to do with how you practice self-love. It has nothing to do with how you practice self-care. It has none of those things are consequential or have any influence or are a factor to what your self acceptance is. I want you to consider self acceptance as part of your self awareness, and it's your ability to embrace the positive parts of you as well as the negative parts of you. And again, this does not require any qualification. So the trauma, the secrets, the abandonment, the rejection, the shame, the hurt, the betrayal. We're going to take it all and say, okay, these are my experiences. I went through them. Now, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Hold up. We have a celebration that I have to note real quickly. Congratulations, Danny. So Danny is now narc free since 12 noon, and we've been waiting for this moment to celebrate with him. His is she already the ex-wife? I can't remember. Has finally moved out, and so now he is able to move further on his journey and experience his own level of healing and continue growing. So we're so happy for you, Danny, and so just grateful for you. Danny came through on the Thanksgiving Zoom chat, and we had such a great time with him. We're just gonna call Danny's gonna be the unofficial preacher here. He's the pastor because the anointing rests on you and you can't run from that. But thank you so much for sharing this with us, and we are so happy. Hey, Francesca, yes, self-acceptance is everything, and it is important. You have to. And what I really, really want to talk about is, being able to now come into acceptance with who you are, all your experiences, everything, and say, you know what, this is what I went. I've said it before that your nativity does not define your destiny. And I know some people try to debate that, but I'm not going to debate it because that's not my thoughts. My thought is that your nativity doesn't define your destiny. It really does not matter how you started out in life, because it's what you do. There is a quote about, and I'm going to look it up, right? And I'm going to put it on the community board, and it's between the dash. It talks about, like, when, what will it say between the dash of your life? Like, the dash that's born in 19 whatever and passed away in 19 or whatever date, your beginning and your end. Those dates are really inconsequential. They don't mean anything. It's what you do in that dash. It's what you do with that time. And so are we going to, spend that time, the most important time, which defines our legacy? And it's simply defined as a dash on a tombstone. It's a dash on an obituary. It's a dash on a death notice. It's just a dash. Those two dates, no, don't mean so much in the grand scheme of things, but it's what you do within the dash. So how are you going to live your life in the dash? Are you going to accept that, what, this is the hand that I was dealt with? Many of us here have a story. In fact, we all have a story. We all have a story. I mean, we're in this community, so we all have a story. We all have a story. Gisette says, I come to realize that the moment I forgive the abuser, my healing started, and I became stronger while the abuser was getting weaker. And that's an important thing to mention. And I'm glad that you did, because that goes to highlight the fact that forgiveness is never for them. It is for you, because she said, the moment I forgave the abuser, my healing started. Your healing is not for the abuser, it's for you. And so it's important that, we do forgive so that we are free to move on, so that we are free to be liberated for the other steps of the healing process to begin. And until we actually are comfortable, or not even comfortable, but until we actually do the work of forgiving and of releasing, because that essentially is what the forgiveness is to you know, it's giving you access to the next step, to the next level, to the next dimension, to the next phase, to the next part of your own journey. And you deserve that. You deserve that. So, I want you to be able to, really take some time. If you have to come back and, watch the video, then watch the video again. But I want you to come back and take some time so that you can get to know your own weaknesses. Ask yourself, what are my weaknesses? We all have weaknesses. What are my fears? What are my insecurities? Because until you're able to identify those things, how else are you going to be able to say, hey, you know what? Now I can move on to the next phase of self-acceptance, or, I can go further in the process of self-acceptance, because until you are accepting, or you totally accept who you are, and who you are includes your experiences. Like, listen, we don't get to choose our parents. We don't get to choose our siblings. We don't get to choose what happened to us in our formative years. We don't get to go back and rewrite our history. We don't. No matter how pretty it was, no matter how ugly it was, no matter how much you wish you could just erase those memories, we don't. And that's why, sometimes we face situations, we meet people, we get into relationships or whatever, and something happens to trigger us. And you want to run away and shut down everything. We can't live like that. We're going to experience triggers, absolutely. But those are just moments now that we can say, okay, God, this is how I'm feeling. What are you teaching me in this moment? I think I shared a few videos ago and I talked about it a little while ago. I was just raging mad, angry, just angry. I was just furious. I had no reason to be angry. I had no reason to rage the way that I was, but I was. And I couldn't get over it. And nothing, all the usual things that I would say to try help myself process my emotion, nothing was working. None of that was working. So I dropped off my kids at my parents', and I went home and I was like, okay, God, what are you saying? Why am I so angry? And instantly he took me right back to that very day. And I was like, no, we already dealt with this before. We're done with this. And he was like, no, we're not. You haven't dealt with anger yet. And I had to start dealing with anger. And I had to, and that was just another layer of that onion being peeled off. And, there's been other layers since. But until we continue, when you keep peeling an onion, there are these layers and layers, but then that sweet center, like think of that sweet onion, the center is the sweetest part of it. And that's that hidden treasure in earthen vessels. That's you. Get to that sweet spot. That sweet spot, the Garden of Eden really translates to a sweet spot. So get to your personal sweet spot. Get to your personal sweet spot, because that's where you can begin to truly flourish. That's where super empath, you are fully awake, and you will rise in your power. You will rise in your call and in knowing who you are. And here's another thing. When you come into agreement with yourself that I'm going to deal with all of these things, then you can walk out your life vision. Then you can walk out your life mission. Then you can walk out your life purpose. And I'm not saying that, all the dots have to be connected, all the dots need to be, or all the I's need to be dotted and all the T's need to be crossed. That's a process. But with each step you take, you're getting towards it. With each layer that you take off, you're getting closer to that sweet spot. So once you're at that sweet spot, listen, that's just where you flourish. That's just where you flourish. But every step you every step you take, you're getting closer to that place. And so you have got to allow yourself to go through it. And no, it's not a pretty thing. Yes, there are going to be plenty of tears. Yes, there are going to be moments that, you're going to say, like, why? And I can't sit here and lie to you. We have got to deal with these things. I want to see what Tanya's saying here. Hold on. Yes, we do. When we don't work out certain things, right? Like, let's use the anchor, for example. It's going to invite its cousins, and its cousins are bitterness, resentment, envy. Yeah, because you're going to look at other people and say, why are they so happy and why can't I be happy? Jealousy, all of those things. Then how do you flourish? How do you truly walk out as a super empath when you now are a host for toxicity yourself? And that's not who you're called to be. Actually, remember, you're the salt. And so it can't be like that. You know, it can't be like that. And I really want to charge us all tonight. So I have a really big question that I want to ask all of you. If you're comfortable, put it in the comments. If you're not, just make a note of it and answer it to yourself. But it's time for us all to be honest with ourselves. What part of yourself, what parts of you have you not accepted yet? What parts of you have you not accepted yet? Those are the things that we now need to start working on. We're going into a brand new year. I don't do this whole New Year's resolution thing because we already know who we want to be. We already know where we're going. We already know who we are. It's the sequel. It's just a continuation of going towards the heavenly version of ourselves. What parts of you have you not accepted yet? That is an opening right there. If you have not accepted that part of you, you're going to be looking for somebody to fill that part of you. And this is where you have created, or you will allow there to be a legal loophole for another narc to come into your life. Haven't you dealt with enough? Haven't there been enough? You know, the narc needed access to come into our lives. And, I know, like with mine, okay, here we go again with my story. With mine was the opening, was the sexual assault. That was the opening. That's where the hurt came in. That's where my identity was erased. That's where all of those things happened, right? And there was so when there's no identity, when there's a lot of hurt, when there's confusion, where there's shame, where there's embarrassment, where there's grief, all of those things, it's just an opening. I was a walking opening for anything to come in and fill that space, because I wanted somebody to take that pain away. I wanted somebody to, make me feel whole, make me all of those things, which I needed to do myself. I needed to accept that that was my truth. That happened to me. Yes, it happened to me, but it does not define me. Yes, you had narcissistic parents, but they don't define you. Yes, they told you that you were not good enough, but guess what? Joke's on them. You're perfect the way that you are. Yeah, they told you you would amount to nothing. Ha ha, laugh in their face, because you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the earth. So joke's on them. That's why your destiny has nothing to do with your nativity. In fact, it will just propel you. Your nativity is just a point, if you allow it to propel you to where you deserve to be, to where you should be. So, it's up to you, though. You have got to make that choice. You've got to make that choice. I don't want to come here on the 29th of November, 2021, and I'm seeing Adriana up in here. I don't want to see Love and Peace. I don't want to see Anne Marie, because y'all would have healed and moved on, and you are doing something wonderful and amazing for yourself, and you are moving things that are in alignment, because you're fully healed and you're on the next phase of your life. Here, hold on a minute. I feel like I was not good enough, especially seeing the new supply is financially helping the narc more than I was able to. I kept blaming myself. And here's the thing, the narc is, as we know, is using the new supply. That's all it is. There is no love there. And the new supply is sacrificing hard-earned finances to take care of somebody and to do some things for somebody who will never, ever reciprocate. It's like being a sacrificial lamb for somebody. And no, I understand your feelings, but now, take away the information and know that you are not somebody's personal ATM. Just because somebody else was able to do it better, you're able to save, look at how you can benefit by saving what you have and not being somebody's personal ATM. You deserve somebody who is on your level, somebody who would meet you right where you are and love you with what you have to offer and not make you feel insignificant. Why would the narc need somebody to take care of them? Why can't they do those things themselves? And that's the real crazy thing about it, is they mess with people's minds and get them to think that, ha ha ha, this person over here is taking care of me. First of all, you're a whole adult. You should be taking care of yourself. In fact, why can't you spoil me for a change? We've got to look at these things a little different sometimes, because they really do try to play with our minds, but like, it's not your assignment. You've got to come into agreement that, hey, I was not created to be used for, financial gain. I am a person that has, I offer you loyalty, stability, dedication, commitment, friendship, companionship, all of those wonderful things that make up a relationship. Not somebody I'm not your doormat, and be thankful that you're no longer in that position. And yeah, it's hard initially because of the games, but now, that now asks, the big ask yourself, what parts of me have I not accepted? And start working on those. Draw the focus. We've got to take the focus off the narc and do the work for ourselves. As long as we keep looking back, we are going to turn into a pillar of salt, just like Lot's wife. And that's why I feel like it's so important that, and we've talked about it before, not just in this community or in this channel, but many other channels are talking about how you sensing something is going on in the atmosphere. Well, then that should be a sign that we don't have time to play, y'all. We don't have time to play. We don't even know how long we have. So let's do what we can to get it right and to get it right, as quickly as possible so that we can move forward. Listen, I forgot to plug in my laptop, so give me a sec. Yeah, so this is the second time I did this. So, yeah. Hold on, system. Sis is getting her life together. All right, here we go. I'm back. So, where was I? Yeah, you were not created to be, somebody's doormat. Nah. You're too valuable. God says you're more valuable than rubies. So no, and ruby is a treasure. You deserve somebody who's going to treasure you. I didn't mean to skip over you, Eileen. I never dealt with a narcissist before, and I was love bombed by lies. That future faking, right? The lies and just making everything seem so good. But narcs, they really do play a number on you when you are not aware, of what they're doing. But now, to whom much is given, much is required. And Eileen, we talked about Adrena earlier, and we were celebrating her and what she's doing. But Eileen is now focusing on self-love. She's leading a self-love group. And self-love is the one thing that, in fact, it's the strongest repellent for a narcissist, because when you are walking in self-love, and when we're talking about self-love, we're not talking about going on spa dates. We're not talking about, buying nice things for yourself and taking trips that's not self-love. That's just self-care. That's just maintenance stuff. That's just doing what you like to do. Self-love is now honoring and respecting your boundaries. Self-love is telling yourself no. Self-love is saying, I don't feel like doing this, but it's for my good, and so I'll do it. Self-love is answering the question, what parts of you have you not accepted yet? Because we want to walk in agreement with who we are, with all of us, with knowing that I'm at peace with everything that I've been through. And And it's really funny. I remember when I finished my first book, and I in the book I was really just sharing my journey of overcoming sexual assault. And as I finished that very last chapter, it was so freeing because never in my life did I ever think that I would get to the point where I could say, oh, wow, this journey, I may not have liked it. It was uncomfortable, and there were so many tears and so much pain and so much hurt in it. But I was thankful for the journey. I wasn't thankful for the actual event, but I was able to look back and say, because of this, I've been able to grow in these ways, or there was a grace over me to be able to, grow up, or to to look at it with a different perspective, and not allow the pain and the all those negative feelings to tarnish, what my outlook on life would be, because it had been so it had been so it stopped me from growing. It kept me from living life. To suicide attempts. So it was trying to take away from me. But we all can experience the self-love. So Eileen, congratulations, and I'm so proud of you for what you are doing. And this is what I'm saying, people, is it's time to move on. It's time to do something. So I want to see what you are doing, how you are growing. What are the things that you are working on? What are your goals? What are your dreams? Because we need to now start holding each other accountable to those things, so that we can actually get to those things. Eileen, I remember, talked about, oh, I'm in the self-love group, and she was, first of all, just kind of like a little shy in the group. And um I remember the very first time when she talked about it. But now she said, I'm leading. And I was like, hold up, wait, what? The same Eileen? Like, listen, the girl is doing it. So we're so proud of you, because it does take coming out of your comfort zone. And it does take saying, you know what, I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to move forward. You don't have to have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. Shoot, I don't. Neither does Tanya. She's smart in everything, but she takes the next step. And that's all it is. You take the next step and you keep on going. If you've got to go to therapy, go to therapy. If you have to go to counseling, go to counseling. If you need to get a coach, get a coach. If you need to continue to watch the videos, then watch the videos. I'm not saying don't, but what I will say to you is, you cannot eat at everybody's table. You don't go to multiple churches all the time. You don't allow multiple pastors to put their hands on you, because you understand that there's a transference. So you can't eat at everybody's table. You can't be at every channel. Know the ones that work for you and that get you to where you want to be. And there's no shame in that. Do it, and then continue to move forward. Hold up. It took me to suffer a brain tumor last year and see their disregard and hatred for me during a challenging time for me to finally put myself first. I thank God for the revelation. Thank you for sharing that with us. Listen, when it comes to these moments of sickness, when your life is being challenged, that's when a lot of times they do not show up. They do not show up because it's fun. They feel like, oh my God, I now have to. If you're in the hospital, first of all, they're glad that you're in the hospital, because you're not there to monitor them. You're not there to see what they're doing. And they have freedom to be who they want to be. So if they want to be out in the streets, creeping and crawling and, narking away, that's what they're going to be doing. So they enjoy it when you're in a hospital, or having those situations, or you find that they're going to be there and act like they're making all these sacrifices to be there to take care of you. But when a narcissist is doing stuff like that, you've got to know that you're going to have to pay up soon. You are going to have to lay down and be a doormat. You are going to have to sacrifice something in order for them to feel like, yeah, okay, it was worth it, because they never do anything for anybody for nothing. There's always a reason why they do what they do. But I hope that you are doing well. Can you let us know, Law Lady K? Can you let us know how you are doing? Um, and so, I'm laughing because I can hear you say this, Tanya. I can just hear you say this. Yep, everybody is not your friend. And so it's really important. And you know what? Thank you for saying that. You just reminded me that, in this journey, right, we're coming from a place of where you are actually walking out of a very difficult, toxic situation, abusive situation. You don't want to sit under something that is going to be abusive towards you or hold you and keep you where you are longer. Go where you grow. Go where you grow. Go where like, okay, my time on this channel is only going to be limited because I'm moving forward. I'm learning something and I'm going to get out of this and I'm going to move on and away from this. Every now and then pull up and visit the channels that you like, but be careful where you spend your time. We're in a really amazing season where the wheat is being separated from the tares. And so just pay attention to where you are. Pay attention and don't if it tickles your ears, that's okay. But does it feed your soul? Does it challenge your spirit? Does it cause a stirring on the inside of you? Because ultimately you are going to be accountable for what you did with your dash. And you don't want to spend your dash anyhow being tickled here and there and not doing what you need to do. Don't stay where you're being encouraged to continue to deal with these nonsense creatures that are amongst us. You've got to grow. You've got to move forward. You've got to get out of this community and go where you truly belong. Because again, if you're a super empath, there is a call and there's an assignment. Everybody has a call. Everybody has an assignment. And you need to get to that place because you are going to be accountable. And that's all it is. That's all it is. And so, it's important that you come into agreement with who you are. Come into agreement with yourself. You don't need to come into agreement with me. You don't need to come into agreement with Tanya. You don't need to get into agreement with Adrina, Eileen, or anybody else. Nobody else needs to accept you. You need to accept you. You're the only one who needs to accept you. Once you truly accept yourself and say, listen, this is me. I understand that I'm insecure in these areas. I'm afraid of these things. I'm limited in these areas, but I'm willing to do these things to change that about me so that I can grow, so that I can move forward, so that I can be at peace within myself, so that I seal the loopholes. A lot of the loopholes that we still have outstanding are the areas where we are not comfortable with ourselves. And it's important that you seal it because, like a moth to a flame, the narc is still attracted. The narcs are out there and they're showing you that they're out there, they're all over the place and they're not going anywhere. They are not going anywhere. They are going to continue. They're going to continue to pop into your life. They're going to continue to show up and look for a way to get into your life. And you know that they are as cunning. I mean, first of all, look who their father is: a nasty, raggedy, slithering serpent, sneaky, cunning, calculating. So they are going to do what it takes to figure you out. And you know how they say, new levels, new devils? You're at the new level right now. And so there's a new devil assigned to that new level. So what are you going to do? Are you going to do the work to completely seal the loopholes and deal with yourself and deal with your outstanding issues and deal with the areas that you are not comfortable or have not accepted about yourself yet? And deny him access that way? Or are you going to feel that, okay, this person is speaking to that need and is making me feel better? Ah, ha, ha. Tanya says, you hear your kids, you better open that door and tell them Auntie Tanya says, hey y'all. Listen, that's my daughter at the door. Okay, let's laugh real quick. So my kids one day sent me a picture when I was at work, and it was a picture of a duck. And the duck was in like a bathtub. And I'm thinking, hold up, but that looks like my bath. What is going on? We live by a creek. So I'm like, what? I get home and there's a whole duck in my bathroom. And, they had bubble bath and everything. Duck as happy as anything. And I was like, we're taking this duck back to the creek. And I'm like, first of all, how did you get it here? And the duck didn't want to go back to the creek. So the duck has we call the city to let them know that your animal is here, and they're like, well, if it's fine. And so it's been here, and it was easily trained like a puppy, okay, and it's been about 2 months. So why she's knocking is because the duck is trying to eat her goldfish, and it's been funny tonight. That's why I had to be a little I had to edit the time we started, because the duck was really trying to get her fish, and I was just trying to, save the day. But back to what we were talking about. Listen, she, we have to seal those loopholes so that they don't have access. As long as there is access, you know, the way I've been trying to think about it is like Swiss cheese. Swiss cheese has the holes. And so everything else is shining bright about you, but there's little holes, little parts of Swiss cheese. And depending on your loopholes, depending on what you still need to accept, and depending on what you still need to accept, thank you for sharing scripture with us. Depending on what you need to accept about yourself is the number of loopholes that are there, or the number of holes in that cheese. And so there will be light. Everything that is solid is light, but they're able to see that, oh, there's a spot right here. Oh, I can get in right here. I can do this right here. You've got to deny them access, and you've got to work on yourself. That self-love is so important. And when you have totally accepted yourself, when you are completely in agreement with who you are, with who God says that you are, with whomever you believe says that you are, there is no access, because that is the sealing of the loopholes. It's your self-acceptance. It's coming into agreement with who you are, coming into agreement with yourself that, like, listen, this is my life. This is what happened to me. This is everything. And now I'm going to deal with it, and I'm going to shut it off once and for all. And after that, there is no going back. There is no going back. Because once you have self-acceptance, right? It's not like we ever put it on the line for somebody else. Once we're walking in self-love, we understand the importance of our boundaries. So there is no violating our boundaries. There is none whatsoever. There is no negotiating with anybody what our self-worth is, or, none of that. None of that anymore. And that's how you clap back. It's coming into agreement. It's the power of agreement. Like, listen, it is important. It is important that you don't require any of them to validate you in any area of your life. All that sweet talk that they come with, all that sweet nothing, all that sweet pillow talk. No. Now, I'm not saying that there is no sweet talk. I'm not saying that there is no pillow talk, because all of those things exist in healthy relationships, but healthy being the key word, healthy being what we are trying to seek. And it is not coming from a toxic person. It is definitely not coming from a narcissist. And if we are not careful, with ourselves, or if we run away from doing the work, or if we just don't afford ourselves the opportunity to fully evolve, then there is no getting to that version of yourself. And so it's really important that you are bold, and that you are willing to do the work, so that you get to those places. Self-love, self-respect, self-validation are so important. They truly are. They truly are. And it has to be part of our makeup. It has to be. We have to come into agreement with ourselves that I deserve to be fought for. And it's nobody else that needs to fight for you. It's you. A lot of times when people don't actually accept themselves, or they, they're having issues with themselves, you've got to go back to the beginnings. We always go back to Genesis. We always go back to the beginning of our story. Where did it start? Ask yourself the questions. What was my childhood like? What was my family life like? Was I happy as a child? Was I validated as a child? Did I feel secure? A lot of issues will stem from the formative years. And did my parents accept me? Because a lot of times when you find that maybe they weren't accepted by their parents, right? You'll find that they don't accept themselves because they don't see themselves as being worthy of acceptance. So it's we have so many people who've grown up without both parents, whether you grew up without a father. And so there's that. Why didn't he stay? Why did he leave this family and go off and start another family? What was not good enough about me for him to be there? There's some questions that people ask. These are questions that I have to sit with my children and talk about, and try to make them feel like, what, let's talk about it. What's on your mind? My son, as much as he tries to be macho and, be a boy, be a man, he's 14 now. He still struggles with the fact that you walked away and started a whole new family like we were nothing. And with him, it's trying to explain to him that, listen, you are not the problem. It was him and I that couldn't get along. When then, it's also how people do these things. And he was like, well, why didn't we sit down and talk about this as a family? He just was here one day and gone the next. So it's it's stuff like that. It's stuff like that, and being aware. So, if you are raising your children now with a narcissist, or um, you know, you're co-parenting, these are things that you must be aware of, that your child is going to experience. Or they may, these may be questions that they are asking. People will say, oh, so many women have daddy issues. Yeah, but so do so many men. And so many men have mommy issues, and so do so many women. Because just because they're a parent, it doesn't mean that they're a good parent. Everybody can, at a certain point in life, if your body says so, you can produce a child. But it does not require any qualification. Nobody has to go and be, checked out. There's no psychological test to see whether you would be a good parent. And so, the children are the ones who deal with the consequences. So maybe ask yourself, what was my childhood like? What was my childhood like? And be honest with yourself. What was your relationship with your siblings like? Did you feel like you were seen? Did you feel like you were heard? Did you feel like, there was love there? Was there love there? What was my relationships with my extended family, the uncles and the aunts? That's where I have my problem. But that's where I have to deal with it, and I've worked through it. But you've got to continue to do that work. You've got to continue to do that work, and don't be afraid. Going back to the analogy of an onion, when you peel an onion, it's going to sprinkle whatever juice that's in it that causes our eyes to tear up. And so, it can cause some pain. We can cry, and that's okay. You can cry. There's nothing wrong with crying. There is nothing wrong with crying. Crying actually helps us release, what's pent up on the inside. So don't ever, ever feel bad for crying. And don't ever feel like, I can't go on, because it's overwhelming, and or feel like I'm back at the beginning. I'm starting over again. No, that's just where you are. Accept it for what it is. Accept your position. Don't look at where other people are. Don't look at that, because we are all human. We all have experiences every day that we have to deal with. That reminds me of the message Tanya talked about, in the same boat, the TD Jakes message. I listened to it, that Sunday, and we are all in the same boat. We are all dealing with something, and it doesn't mean that, it's always going to be a struggle. I'm going to highlight this comment. This is Law Lady K. As a scapegoat, my childhood was filled with invalidation and harshness. It has created a strong sense in me to do all that I can to help others, often at my expense. I want to do better. And a lot of what just where you say you want to do all that you can to help others already speaks so much about your journey, and you can do better because you don't have to, those are great qualities to have, to want to help other people, but not at the expense of you. Um, I encourage you to do the work. Do the work to do, so that you can get to the point where you are now saying, no, I don't want to do it. And being comfortable with your no, and knowing that those two letters put together is a full sentence. You can put a period right there, or you can put an exclamation mark, but never a comma or a question mark. No, it is a full sentence, no, and move on. You deserve to feel secure within yourself. You deserve to be able to make decisions and trust your decision making. You deserve to be able to be at peace within yourself. A lot of the times when we have issues with codependency, there's a need to be validated by other people. But now we're going to validate ourselves because we're fabulous. Okay. This thing says, be you fabulous. Like, be you, girl. Do you. Be you, sir. Be you, brother. Like, be you, because you're fabulous the way that you are. God makes no mistakes. Understand that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, the apple of his eye. Like, hello, rubies you are more prideful or more worthy or more valuable than rubies. Wow, she got tongue tied. But you are more valuable than rubies. And these are things that you have to remind yourself. And that's why I felt like it was important to talk about the power of agreement, because now I want to come to the word a little bit and remind you, it is important that you come into agreement with who you believe your creator is. Come into agreement with that. I come into agreement with God, because that's who I believe. And so I have to know his word, and I have to know what his word is saying to me, so that I know how to see myself. And that's how you talk to yourself. That's how you talk to yourself. Over the years, over your experiences, over time, you were in agreement with who the narcissist said you were. Now, mind you, the narcissist was sent, excuse me, because the narcissist is in agreement with somebody else. But the narcissist was sent to change, to pervert your perception of yourself. That's his assignment, or her, that's its assignment, okay? So the narc is on its own assignment to pervert your perception of yourself. And so it's important that you cast that aside. Forget those things that are behind. Reach for what is in front of you. You now have to take it upon yourself to change, to turn the page and change what you are saying to yourself, and define yourself differently, and have a better way of viewing yourself, speaking to yourself, and believing what is true about you. There is no way that you should be, tied down to what is false, to what is not real, to the words of a whole demon. No, guys, that's not your heritage. That's not your story. That's got nothing to do with you. It's important that you see yourself for who you truly are, and just believe that. There is nothing. There is nothing that narc came to offer you but a wake-up call. There is nothing. The narc didn't come to bless your life. The narc didn't come to edify you. The narc is not equipped to do any of those things. It is not. It is there to steal, kill, and destroy. It is there to lie to you. It is there to bastardize your perception of yourself. It is there to take. It is there to destroy you. It is there to destroy your peace, steal your joy, steal everything. No. Hello, uniquely made. So uniquely made says, hold up, it went away. It says, I don't ask God why anymore, because the storms I face lead to God's grace. That is so true. The storms always lead to his amazing grace, and and his grace is sufficient for all of our storms. So it's important that, you change your perspective, you change the way that you are seeing it, and no longer, because, the comment that a few comments ago, what did it say? It said something about, the narc was prancing around with a new supply who was able to provide financially for the narc, right? So it's almost like coming into agreement with being viewed as less than. A lot of the times with these narcissists, you view yourself as less than. You feel you view yourself as lacking in certain areas or just not good enough. And you come into agreement with that because when the relationship ends, those feelings remain. That residue remains, and you see yourself through that lens when that's not who you are. And so it's time to fully let go of that, that falsehood, of those lies, and begin to see yourself and come into agreement with the truth about who you are. That's why you go into the word. That's why now, you find the right words to edify yourself and come into agreement again with everything that has happened, even the childhood, the trauma, all of those things, and make peace with it. You're going to pray for peace, you're going to ask for peace, because there is grace for all of those things, and have that peace. And the point of it all is just so that you are able to get to a place of self-acceptance. When you are truly when you are accepting everything, when you are really walking in self-acceptance, then you have a level of self-awareness, because you can't get to self-awareness without self-acceptance, because you're going to have to highlight the different areas in your life that you are not comfortable with. And so once you're able to say, you know what, this area, that area, that area, you work on them. And then that raises that level of self-awareness. When you have that self-awareness, now you know which boundaries you need. Your boundaries are not going to look like my boundaries. They're not going to look like Tanya's boundaries. They're not going to look like my son's boundaries. Everybody's boundaries are going to be they're going to have to be uniquely tailored to your experience. And again, that's why your self-acceptance is important. Your self-awareness is important, so that you know, what am I protecting here? You don't want to have my boundaries for a situation that looks totally different from mine. So self-examination is key. And be brutally honest with yourself when you are doing that. Be brutally honest, so that you are answering these questions and don't find yourself back here again. Who wants to be in this position again? Who wants to invest time in a relationship only to find out it was a lie, and then even feel worse because we have knowledge about it? But here's the thing. Like I said to you earlier, new levels, new devils. That thing's going to try you again. It's going to try you. But because you are fully integrated, you are fully aware of who you are and what you are doing and how you're feeling, and you're honoring those things, that creature doesn't stand a chance. It will be called out very early. You're not going to waste time like, before. So you've got to, do the work. Do the work. Do the work. It's so important that you do the work, so that you are able to heal and move on, and move forward, because guess what? You deserve it. You deserve it. The future version of you is waiting to embrace you and to tell you thank you for making those sacrifices. Thank you for doing the work, because now we can move forward into our destiny. That heavenly version of yourself is waiting at your prepared places for you. And love yourself through the process. Never stop telling yourself that I love you, because you're doing something valuable. You're making the changes. You're taking time to do the work. I love you. I forgive you. I'm here for you. I hear you. I see you. I'll fight for you. I won't ignore you. I won't allow anybody to treat you any kind of way anymore. If you don't show up for yourself, who is? Who is? You can't trust me to show up, because I might be having an attitude that day and not want to show up for nobody because I'm in my own funk. Be willing to do the work to show up for yourself. Your children need to see you showing up for yourself. Your children need to see you standing up and doing the work to heal and to move forward, so that trajectory on life is changed. You want to be able to, this is part of your legacy. This is going to be part of the dash of your story. And so it's important that you do that work so that you're not bound by any of these traps that are going to rise up as we continue to go forward. It's important that you do that work. And so again, it's important that you come into agreement with, with who you are, with who God says that you are, so that we no longer have to deal with this nonsense anymore. Because, like, listen, every day somebody is being conned by a narc, every single day. And you have knowledge, you have what that person needs, you have the information, and it's just, it's your situation. I mean, it's, the environments that you're in, it's the different places that you are. And, and it's just being able to walk out what you were called to do. That's it. There are so many, I know there are so many talented people watching. There are so many talented people that will come back of the replay. It, and you're holding onto your talents. You're holding onto your gifts because you don't feel like, you know, you don't feel like, you don't see yourself. You don't see yourself, or there's that doubt, there's that guilt, there's feeling that I don't deserve this, because that's what the narcissist told you. That's what the narcissist made you believe was what you needed to do. That's, that's that perverted, the perverted narc coming to tell you all of these things. None of it is true. None of it is true. What would be the best clap back that you could ever issue? And our goal is not to be focused on them, because again, once we're fully integrated, trust you me, you can care less about that joker anymore. That joker has nothing to offer you. That's when you're able to turn around and be like, Shh, I can't believe I was with that creep. I cannot believe that, I let this happen. Oh, uniquely made, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And God bless you too. We're not going to allow these creatures to do this to us and to hold us back anymore. We're coming on the cusp of a new year. So what are you going to do in 2021? It was all hype when we were going into 2020, new decade, new year. And, life happened in 2020. Life is going to happen also in 2021, but that doesn't have to define you. It doesn't have to change your end result, because life is always going to happen and it's always going to do what it does. But what are you going to do? What are you going to call your year? What are you going to call your year? So far, my most important year, I think, in my growth was 2019. And I called that my year of self-preservation, where I finally started putting myself first. And I started saying no. I mean, I couldn't say no. But trust you me, by the end of that year, that no was rolling off my tongue without an inch of guilt, without feeling like, oh, maybe this or that. I couldn't care less about that if I didn't want to do it. And that's not to say I was rude about it or anything, but I had to be at peace. And I was doing the things that would honor me and where I wanted to go and how I was feeling at that time. So how are you going to define your year? What are you going to call it? What are you going to work towards? And you don't have to wait until January 1st to start that. You can start right now. You can get some practice in right now and start doing that work. But I want to challenge you, before you can even think about what are you going to focus on, you've got to answer that question. What do I need to accept about myself? What are my insecurities? What are my fears? What are my goals? What are the things that are keeping me back from my goals? And once you start answering those questions, now you can put up a contingency plan on what you are going to do when doubt starts to creep in, because doubt is always going to show its ugly head. It's just like a darn narcissist, always raising its raggedy, dusty head to try to tell you that you can't do this. But what are you going to say when that happens? You got to get your clapback game together now. And you've got to have your plan on when this happens, this is how I'm going to respond. Because guess what? I deserve showing up for myself. I deserve continuing to fight for myself. Think about, think about your beginning. Think about the very reasons why you are where you are, and work to never, ever be there again. Think about how you felt when you were told that you were no good enough, when you were told that you would amount to nothing, when you were told that you were an embarrassment, when you were told, uh, there are some of you that have shared that you were told that, you should have been aborted. I should have swallowed you. I should have done all of those things, those hurtful things. That's not your destiny. That's not your truth. That is not your truth. And for far too long, you've come into agreement with that. And now it's time. It's time to change that. It is time to change that. And I can't stress it enough to you. There's such a burning passion on the inside of me that says it's time. We can't continue to hold on to those false doctrines. We can't continue to hold on to the words of false prophets, because those are prophets. They are speaking things over your life. And the problem is that you came into agreement with the false prophet, but now it's time to Deuteronomy 18:22. I'm going to look it up real quickly because I want to share that with you. Give me a moment. I'm sorry. I didn't have it early. It just popped into my head. Here we go. Okay, so this is the NIV version. If what a prophet proclaims in the name of the Lord does not take place or come true, that is a message the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken presumptuously, so do not be alarmed. A lot of times these false prophets come into your life to catch you off your destiny. The narc is a false prophet because they are making announcements over your life, and they're trying to make you feel like they are superior to you, or they are making announcements and prophecies based from the camp that they are sent from. None of it is true. None of it is true at all. You cannot fear that joker. You cannot fear that joker, especially in the realm of the spirit, and that's where you're going to fight it. You cannot fear that fool. Think of you, raggedy, dusty behind, that dirty, nasty swamp creature. You put whatever words you want to that thing. You cannot fear it because it is false and it is lying. It is a liar. The truth is not in it. Anytime it speaks, it's speaking its language. It's speaking its language. It speaks its language. Its language is lies. I know that's a scripture. I can't tell you which one, but it's speaking its native language. That's what it's doing. So you cannot be in agreement with that anymore. It's important that those things, those hurtful words, my ex used to tell me that, ooh, in fact, he wouldn't tell me. He would have women that were so bold, they would call me, and they would be like, oh, he told me. And they would leave these voice messages because I wasn't answering the phone. But he would be like, oh, he's just with me for the kids. Lies, trash, garbage. That's a lie. Or he doesn't like having sex with you. It's a chore. Lies. Devil is a liar. No. But these are things that made me insecure. Back then, made me insecure. Are you kidding me that a swamp creature, I gave that much rent space, that much real estate in my life to that creature? Y'all, okay, a petty moment was just rising up and I had to put it to bed. But listen, when you get to see, and when you get, I was one of those people that have been able to see what has happened to this swamp creature. And that's all I can say. There are no words. There are no words. And so when I look at myself now, and not saying that I'm greater than the next person, but what I'm saying is that this is who I was crying about. This is who I was upset because people were saying that he was too embarrassed to be seen. Like I was cropped out of every picture together, every picture. We would have family picture and I'll be strategically placed and cropped out, and it looked like it was just kids there. And now I'm like, why was I hurt? Why was I hurt? That just helps me. There's less evidence that I was tied to a swamp creature. Like, listen, no. No, no, no. Don't come into agreement with those lies anymore, because I was in agreement with those lies, kept myself depressed and trying to change who I was to fit the narrative of somebody else. And you never have peace when you are working to please another person. You no work on your own personal constitution. That's what needs your attention, not the lies and the trash of other people. No, nope. No, there is no way. There is like, nah, no. I need you to really hear me when I say, like, I mean it. Like, it's really hard. It's really hard. It's really hard when to move forward in life when that soundtrack keeps playing in your mind that you're not good enough. You're never going to be anywhere. I don't want you. I can have somebody better than you. If so many people want me, all this and that. No, it's hard to live your life when that is the soundtrack. Change the soundtrack. Change the soundtrack. Put something that is more in alignment with your future and where you are going. That's going to be one of the best ways that you can start deprogramming that nonsense from that fool, from that raggedy dust. And also tell yourself who they really are. They are not ever on your level. Hello. They are never on your level. And is no, they never are. And that's not to be tooting our horn that we are so superior. We're not. So we're not. We're just making this by God's grace. That is what this is. This is God's grace. We should never allow ourselves to become so big-headed and think so much of ourselves because we're going to be like them. And the goal is never to be like them. You've got to stay true to who you are, to who called you, and just know that life happens in cycles. So, what goes up comes down. Be careful. Be careful about what you want to happen to the narc. Yeah, because understand that that is a person, but they're under evil influence. They're under evil influence. So be careful. A lot of times, and I'm guilty because I've said a lot of things in my time. I've said a lot about what I wish would happen to the narc, but watch your words, because what we put out, the energy that we put out, do you want it to come back to you? That's why I say come into agreement with what God says. You can always fight with his word. Vengeance is his. It's not ours. It's his. And so we've got to be able and willing to say, you know what, God, this is yours. Deal with, this person did this to me. This is how I'm feeling. This is where I am. I'm hurt. I'm bruised. I'm crushed. I'm devastated. Be truthful with all of that. Tell him who can do something. Let him deal with it. Let him deal with it. Let him deal with it. My narc father tries to take away my access to his sister, my aunt, because he has issues with her. It's so pathetic. She's my rock and I get advice from her. And that's exactly why. It's that jealousy, trying to always control anything and everything. Oh, I have to share this one. Now I am married to a wonderful man who loves God, who my narc dad hates, by the way, and mommy two beautiful children who God gave me. My family or original hate seemed to burst. And that's the thing, there is love after this, guys. There is love after this, and it doesn't have to define, your life does not have to be defined by pain and by hurt, but allow yourself the process to heal. And part of your healing is going to allow yourself to grieve what you lost, to grieve your pain. I mean, to be able to express how you're feeling. Grief, there's nothing wrong with it. But remember that when it comes to grief, there are stages to it. I was grieving my little, the younger version of myself. I grieved for her for so long, but I finally had a moment where, I wrote a letter to her. I wrote to my younger self, and I spoke to her from, I can't remember how old I was at that time, about 5 years ago or whatever. But I sat there and I wrote a letter to her and just assured her that she was loved, that she was cared for, that I would fight for her, that, I'm sorry that this happened to her, but those were not her fault. None of it was her fault. The problem, or what my problem was, and I'm sure maybe, someone else can relate to this, is that, the day that the sexual assault happened to me, I always wanted to get back to the day before, because it was like my identity was erased and I didn't know who I was. And so I felt like I needed to get back to the day before so that I could get to know who she was, and that she didn't have to die, because I felt like a part of me died in that moment. And I was always living my life backwards, trying to get back to her so that I could find out who is she, so that I can be her, because I don't know who I am. And it's crazy living your life not knowing who you are. But here I am, making decisions to get married, making decisions to have children, but I don't know me. And I'm still trying to get back to me. But the truth of the matter is, you don't die, you just evolve and you grow. So, even if you're feeling like, I wanna, I just want to get back to how I was before the narcissist came. Well, bad news for you. You're never going to get back to that version. But the good news is you're going to get to a better version of yourself, because now, if you go through the process and you take what you have and you use it and to heal and grow, you're going to get to a better version of yourself, because now there's experience, there's a new level of wisdom, and there's acceptance, there's self-compassion, there's a new set of boundaries, there's a new respect for yourself and everything that you have been through. So there's a new you, you just evolve. There's no going back, but we move forward. And it's not to say that you have to tarnish or forget everything about the old you, but no, now you're just going to have new experiences. It's like, it's just like growth, like just how your hair grows. It continues to grow forward, and that's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be. And so when I realized that I was doing life backwards, I was like, listen, and have some compassion to yourself. And that's something that I have to work on, because like, I can be very mean to myself. I can say some mean things to me, but it just, I have to also like, listen, you're doing too much. You're doing the most. Some self-compassion. It just embrace the moments. Like, we can't be chasing perfection, because there was only one perfect man who walked this earth. And again, none of us here have the assignment to be Jesus Jr. Because if you want to be Jesus Jr., that means you're going to live in perfection, and your time going to come and you're going to go up before the rapture. And we're not trying to see you go before your time, because there's still things for you to do here, is what I'm trying to say. So have some compassion, some self-compassion, have some grace for yourself. Um, 2018, I told you 2019 was my year of self-preservation. At 2018, I was walking at the pace of grace. That's what I told myself. This year, I'm walking at the pace of grace. um, Not really sure what I'm going to be doing for 2021 just yet, but when I do, I'm going to share it with you, because I think, some of us will walk together, because that's the season that you'll find yourself in. But continue to love yourself, continue to value who you are. Your experiences, as devastating as they may have been, as difficult as they may have been, guess what? They didn't kill you. You're here. You are here. You are here. They didn't kill you. You are here. What you lost, you're here. You're here. All of those things can be got back, can be regenerated. You can get more. You can recover. I'm living proof, guys. I'm living proof. Like, I'm living proof. Living proof. The first time I tried to take my own life, I was 15. I had had enough. And it was like I just wanted to be normal like the other kids. Like all the other girls around me were at that point where they were now getting boy crazy and, having those experiences. And I couldn't stand guys. I couldn't stand boys because in my mind, all they were going to do was just hurt me. They were all going to be a perpetrator, a predator, and just hurt me. And and then I felt some type of way when I heard that the joke going around was that, oh, she's not into boys because she's a lesbian. And I was like, no, I'm not. But who was listening to me? And first and now, and even now, think about like mind you, I'm in Zimbabwe at the time. So consider my culture. This is not something that, there was no gay pride or anything like that. So it was like, no, I'm not. And I felt like, I'm going from one frying pot into another. And there was just, a lot of, just a lot of different things. I just wanted to be normal like everybody else around me. I wanted to be normal. And I think one of the happiest moments that I had, or what I felt was one of my happiest moments up until that time, or right up to that moment, was really when I had fistfuls of pills that I was taking, because in my mind, all I was telling myself is it's gonna be over soon. The pain is gonna stop. That self-hate. And I didn't recognize it as self-hate. To me, it was just pain, but it was really self-loathing. And I'm taking handfuls of pills, handfuls. And I'm thinking, it's about to be over. It's about to be over. I'm not gonna wake up from this, and it's gonna be perfect, and it's all gonna be over. And I went to bed and I was literally smiling. I was like, I laid down and I went to sleep, and I was so happy. Y'all, I was so happy. And so, when people say like suicide is people who commit suicide are selfish, you've also got to consider what drives people to that point. That's a loss of hope. When you have no hope, there is nothing else that you want. There's nothing else that you desire. It's gone. It's out the window. I didn't want to live. I didn't want another day. I didn't want to try anymore. I was just done. I was done. That's all it was. And when I was waking up and my mom was over me and she's crying and she's trying to figure out what's going on, and oh, we need to get help right away. And this is the only thing that came to my mind was, you failed. You really are no good enough. Those were the very words of the predator. And those were my first words. You see, I came into agreement with what he said over my life in that moment. No, no, here I am. There was another attempt when I was 20. That didn't work either. And it was crazy because I really, like, really, really wanted it to end. I was like, I had the whole conversation with myself, like, because I also grew up in church. And so, in the church, you kill yourself, you go to hell. And I was like, yeah, I'd rather be in hell because this is worse. That's what I felt. But guys, I'm glad it didn't work. I'm honestly glad it didn't work. I'm glad I didn't get to have my way. And I want you to also be glad that the narcissists that you encountered in your lives didn't get to have their way. Remember who they are. They're out to get you. They're out to derail you from reaching your prepared places. Because the longer you stay in a funk, the longer that you are blind to your true identity, the longer you are not walking in self acceptance, the longer that you are walking in total disagreement with yourself, the longer that you do not come into agreement with God, guess who is winning? Guess who is winning? Guess who's winning the battle for your soul? And so, even though you may not be with the narcissist, all that work that they did to indoctrinate you into the harem is still working. It's still working. They remain powerful. The longer you stay unhealed, they are still working. I mean, they're still winning. They're still winning. Hey, Anna. Thank you for joining. But, The longer you do not heal, they win. They win. They win. And y'all, if I gotta come over to each one of you and sit you down and be in your face like, listen, that fool can't win. I'm serious about this. They cannot win. They cannot win because there's too much on the line. And I hope you understand, that's why I tell you, like, it's important where you go to listen, where you go to heal, who you allow to lay hands on you, whose table you're eating from. And I'm not talking about literal food, but I'm talking about like your healing journey. There are several great channels. Go and grow, but grow to the point that you are overcoming this, because we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Your testimony, you overcome by the blood of the Lamb. The blood was already shed on Calvary's cross. That part is done. You also overcome by the word of your testimony. That means you got to speak up. Every time you open your mouth, you are issuing an announcement to the kingdom of darkness that I am not afraid by you. I will not be defined by you. I will not be held by you. Every time you open your mouth to speak, guess what? The gates of hell shall not prevail against the church. Who is the church? It is the people. So, the whole time throughout the pandemic, people are like, oh, the church is closed. The church was never closed. The building, yes. But you are the church. So the gates of hell shall not prevail against you. That's what you got to tell yourself. You are the church. You're the church. And what you were fighting for was already taken care of on Calvary's cross. Speak up. Speak up. That is how you overcome. Open your mouth. But be careful where you open your mouth. Be careful who you are talking to. Be careful who you are allowing to talk to you. Have they overcome? And that's not to say you're looking for perfection. That's not what I'm saying. But are they guiding you? Is it food for your soul? Because I want to see you healed, period. I want nothing else, because I also don't want you here this time next year. I'm sorry. I love y'all, but I don't want you here this time next year. Because why? You would have done the work to heal and move on. Move on to where you need to be. Move on to where you are thriving. Move on to where you are effective in doing what your assignments. Listen, the Narc doesn't want you to actually be successful, to get to the point where your assignments are taken care of. That's why they fight you so much. That's why I keep on telling you, you've got to do what you got to do to heal and move on, so that you can get to what you need to do. Because, child, we are going to sit and one day be questioned about, okay, so what did you do with what was in your hand? Remember the parable about the talents? Some were given how many talents? How many talents? I can't think of it right now, but they were given a different number of talents. And remember, the one guy was given the one talent and went to bury it. The longer that we remain buried, the longer that we remain buried in shame, in hurt, in anguish, in pain, the longer we don't use our talent, the longer we're not able to invest our talent, and there is no return on that investment. Do you really want to be called out? That's the real question there. Do you really want to be called out for not having a return on that investment in you? Mm-mm. No, we don't. No. And so that's why you have to come into agreement with yourself. It's important that you say, this, everything that I went through, okay, I'm gonna glean from it. I'm gonna take what I can to help me move. I'm gonna learn from it. I'm gonna deal with all of it. I'm not gonna be defined by it, but I'm gonna allow it to propel me forward, so that you can reach the heavenly version of yourself. Like, listen, you have to. It's not even about choice anymore. Thank you. Yep, I believe you're right, because they doubled their talents, Mrs. H. 5, 2, and 1 talents. That's what I was kind of leaning on. But you have to. And the one with the one talent is the one who buried his talent. Like the word says, we have this treasure in earthen vessels. There's something inside of you, and it's not for your glory, it's for his glory. So you've got to be able to allow him to excavate it from you. And it's in that excavation there is pain, yes, but come into agreement that no matter what it costs, and the cost is not a financial cost. The cost is your sweat, blood, and tears. It's the determination to know that I'm gonna have to do something different this time. I'm going to have to separate from this person whom I love but was no good for me. I'm going to have to sit alone in silence so that I can heal. I'm going to have to totally devote this upcoming year to my healing. And that means that, you know what, I'm not going to have a boo thing. I'm not going to have a booty call. I'm not going to have none of those things because I'm focusing on me right now. And I'm worth more than that. I'm worth more than somebody just casually coming to stroke my ego and casually whispering sweet nothings to me. I want the real thing. So it's you. You have the power to change. You have the power to dictate what your future is going to look like. That's why your destiny, your nativity does not define your destiny. It's the dash that does. What are you doing with your dash? How are you going to live your life? How are you living your life? And are you tired of things being the way that they are? And if you're truly tired, okay, what are we going to do about it? So, yeah, this was supposed to be like an hour long. And yeah, it's an hour and 45 minutes. It's a lot longer than I wanted to, but we can continue the discussion on Tuesday nights because tomorrow is work for all of, for many of us. And I've been long here tonight. But you know how it is. But remember that you are worth the fight. You are worth the investment in yourself. It's easy to make an investment in somebody else and say, you know what, I'm going to show up on her channel and I'm going to go ahead in the comments and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be a cheerleader and all of that. But you deserve that type of energy. Give that energy to yourself before you give it to anybody else, because guess what? You deserve it and you're worth it. And you've got to now start telling yourself these things. Start telling yourself these things and believe them. Don't just say them like because they sound good, but believe them. Use whatever words you want that are going to be good for you, but use those words and mean them. You deserve it. You're worth the fight. You're worth the sacrifice. You're worth the investment, and you deserve it. Because guess what? That's how you're going to get that return on investment, the one that we were talking about, because we're no longer being buried. We're no longer, returning, we're no longer returning back to what they said that we were, or allowing them to put a lid on us or telling us this is the ceiling. No, they were all created to be broken. So you can go ahead and rise and don't be afraid of any of that. So thank you so much for spending time with me tonight. I hope that you all have a peaceful night and a restful night and a fabulous week. And Tuesday, 7:15, I will be here and we can catch up some more. I thank you so much for being here and listen. I'm praying for you, and I know that if you truly, truly commit to diving in and taking care of what needs to be taken care of, and you answer the question that I've asked you, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. You're not behind. You're on time and in time, because that's the God that made you. There is no error in him. So even though you may feel like I'm behind, no, you're not. Have some grace for yourself. Have some self-compassion. And we will talk again on Tuesday. So thank you so much for coming through, guys. Take care of yourselves and have a fabulous